everybody. It's Georgia Rose from the Soul Space. I am here tonight in the Zen. I can never do this in the Zencuda Soul Space. How's that for you guys? If you're listening and not watching, you have no idea what just happened. Okay, so tonight we're going to talk about the new moon coming into Pisces and all the planets in Pisces. And we're going to talk about a lot of the energy that we've been feeling these last couple of months with Mars retrograde and now going direct today. So I want to see in the comments how many of you woke up today and felt a little bit different and a little maybe more pep in your step, or just like maybe a little more optimistic or something, because I certainly did. And I think that it was because Mars went direct today. So you know the drill. I am going to share the show. I'm going to move my mic out of my face a little bit. I just ran in the studio about how many seconds ago, Bobby? What was I here 15 seconds ago? And jammed into my seat, and I'm ready to do a beautiful show for all you guys. So I am going to share the show for those of you at home. If you want to share the show, I would absolutely love you for that. I'm trying to build the audience here in Soul Space Podcast, and I need your help to do that. So I am going to share my show. And if you guys at home could do that, that'd be great. I'm going to put it on the Zencuda Soul Space site on Facebook, and also in the Georgia Rose site as well. Okay, where am I going here? Okay. So tonight, as I said, I want to talk about all the Pisces energy that we have. I'm going to get a little personal tonight because I have had so many things happen during this retrograde emotionally and spiritually. And today when I woke up, it all just kind of came together. And I said, you know what? I'm going to do a show about this because I'll bet there's a lot of people who've been going through the same kind of stuff. So we'll jump into that. As I said, Mars went direct today. And I felt it. Love to see in the comments if you guys felt it, because definitely felt that shift. I've been taking an astrology class with my mentor the last few weeks, and he's been going over a lot of the transits that are going to happen in 2025. So in the next couple of shows, I'll be going over that with you and giving you guys some tips and some strategies on how to really use the energy of 2025 to our advantage and come into our full potential. But you know what I'm going to do first on the show before I get deeply into the astrology and my own personal lived experience? I am going to go into the affirmations, Bobby. Let's do that first. So we'll get those out of the way because they're really important with the astrology. So let's go into the affirmations. So I made our affirmations up for February. And what I did was I actually took all 4 weeks and I added this week's affirmation because we have a new moon in Pisces coming out on Friday. And the idea behind the weekly affirmations is that once we have all 4 of them, you can use those for the new moon because it'll usually happen that way in the calendar. And so tonight, the first week of February, our affirmation was doors to truth and love are opening for me. And the reason we chose that affirmation is because we were going through the first week of February, a time when things were really foggy and we didn't really know if we were discerning what was truth and what was an illusion. And for a lot of us, there was a lot of confusion and murkiness. So I thought that affirmation would be really great. A lot of planets in Pisces, and that's when it started in the beginning of the month. In the second week, the affirmation that we chose was, I release fear and trust my intuition to guide me. And the reason why I chose that affirmation was because we still had some of the wateriness and the confusion of all that Pisces energy coming in. But now Mercury was headed for Pisces, and Mercury being our mind and the way we think, really we felt very heightened in disorder, in disarray, and the chaos in the world was starting to get very heightened around that second week of February as well. So I thought that affirmation was a really great one to put out because it kind of, summarized all the things that were going on in the world. And that was, I release fear and trust my intuition to guide me. And in doing that, I think that we were able to ground in our own discernment and our own intuition. Then the third week, the affirmation was, I am open to hearing my inner voice. Once again, trailing along on the same theme of going within to calm the chaos and going within to find truth and what's real, instead of going into the external world where we find more chaos and confusion, and it gets harder and harder as this year progresses to really know what's truth and what's not truth. And this week's affirmation is a culmination of all three of those weeks and the energy that we're going to be feeling this week. And the affirmation I chose for this week is I feel validation and safety within myself. And that's really the theme and what I want to talk about tonight, because it has been a very long winter of Mars retrograde. And so for me, this Mars retrograde really was about seeking validation and safety within myself. And one of the things I'm noticing more and more, whether it's in my daily life or in work-related things, or even in my passion project here for Zenkuda and the soul space and all of the spiritual work that I do, I notice more and more that as the world gets a little more confusing and as the world gets a little more chaotic, we humans are really having a tendency to vibrate into the external world for our validation. And I find that a little bit disturbing, because when I catch myself doing that, I pull it back. Because I have a lot of lived experiences where a lot of my disappointment and a lot of my trauma and a lot of my pain in my lived experiences came from seeking validation in external sources. So what do I mean by external sources? Other people, other situations, really going places to validate myself, whether that would be trying to overachieve even as a little girl in school, or through work, and realizing, wait, there's no extra credit here, and pulling myself back, or even through people pleasing and all kinds of things that I've lived experience with and now have stepped out of quite a bit, and now trying to, and it's a daily thing where I catch myself all the time to bring myself back to a place where I can get validation from inside myself. And I think for those of us who've grown up with trauma or grown up in an unsafe environment, and that doesn't mean that you had to be on the streets or that you had to be in a foster home, although some of us were, right? I personally was not. It could just be that you had a family that you didn't feel like you belonged in, like you didn't feel like you could be safe in. And sometimes that happens with very large families. I know my generation, it was not uncommon in the neighborhood I grew up in for people to have like 8, 9, 10 kids, So it's going to be hard for you to be validated and seen in those environments, and it can lead to trauma or inner wounds of some kind. And when you grow up like that, you start to function in an environment where you're always trying to be seen, or you're always feeling not seen. You're feeling like you don't belong. And that's really what this energy brought out in a lot of us. The Pisces axis, Pluto going into Aquarius. Pluto going into Aquarius is really revealing what's hidden, what's below the surface. It's revealing the things in our life that we don't always want to look at, but that are going to come up. Because with all these Pisces planets, what's happening is that stuff we don't want to look at is being just dragged up from the depths. And so for me, when Mars went retrograde back several months ago, it was in my 7th and 8th house. And the 7th house is relationship, and the 8th house is transformation. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about my story the last couple of months. I hope you don't find it boring. I hope you find it interesting and maybe inspires you in some way to apply things in your own life and in your own lived experiences to change things and make them different, because that's really where this energy wants us to go. It's about finding and revealing things that are coming into our awareness that are the old ways that we used to behave or do things, or maybe seek validation or seek relationship or seek love or seek something. And now those patterns have been put in our awareness, they've been revealed to us, and we're really feeling like doing things a different way, especially with things like communication, connection, community, maybe in groups, and looking at where have I felt not validated, where do I seek my validation in the external world, and has that been a healthy pattern for me? And that's really what these last few months have been about. I'd love to hear and see your comments, because I think we've all really been going through this as a, really as a species almost, right? As human beings. And so I think that eventually this leads to more self-love for us, but I also feel like doing this work really brings us all to more love for each other. Because one of the things that I came across while doing this work and unpacking some of these things within my own life was a lot of people feel the same way I do. And even growing up in a family, like maybe I wasn't the outsider. Maybe everyone felt like the outsider and I just never knew it. And those are some of the things that came to light. And I think that in the reevaluation of the places where we have unhealthy patterns, what's come out for me during this long Mars retrograde winter is lessons in acceptance and diversity. And I'm going to get to that a little deeper in a minute, but I want to backtrack just for a few minutes and really talk to you guys about how the Soul Space podcast kind of came to be, what my intention for it is, because I think sometimes we do all these shows and we have guests on and we do all these things, but I forget to really go back and anchor in the intention. And the reason why I do the Soul Space and why this is a passion project for me is because what Soul Space is to me is the place within us that we are really at home. And we, in relation to what I'm discussing tonight, we try to find that home and that safety and that security in so many places throughout our life, through others that maybe the relationship really isn't healthy, through addictions, through consumerism, right? The new Porsche will make us feel better. Or I'll feel really good about myself sitting in this car. Or if I get this boat, my family's going to love me more, right? And all of these external things just leave us empty and disillusioned and dissatisfied. And it isn't until we find the soul space within us. You can sit in a chair in an empty room in silence and feel good and feel at home and feel aligned and feel adjusted and feel like your priorities are in order and you're at peace, And I remember the very first time I ever felt like that in my life. Unfortunately, I was middle-aged. It didn't come early for me. And I had finished a yoga class. And I was actually at a very tragic time in my life, suffered a lot of loss, was in heartbreak. And all of a sudden the class ended and I was just sitting on my mat. And I realized I felt like relaxed. I felt good. My body felt relaxed. My body felt good. And I didn't really feel that feeling was familiar. It felt great, but it was a feeling I had never had. And I realized in that moment, like, I didn't feel any pressure. And I didn't feel like I had to be somewhere. And I didn't feel like I needed to do anything. And I felt like I was home. And it was one of the most beautiful feelings I've ever had. And so it was such a beautiful feeling that's a feeling I strive for in my life all the time. Whether it's at the end of the day or beginning of the day, just like breathing and going into a space all by myself and knowing that's home. It's within me. And so what I've accomplished from that feeling that I was blessed enough to have is a feeling where wherever I am, in whatever moment, I can retreat into that place and feel really safe and really stabilized. And that's the core of all of us. And that's what the soul space is about. And that's why I named the show Soul Space. That's what Zenkuda is about. It's living life from your own home within. It's living life from that stable place that no one can take from you and no one can break apart on you. And I think that once you get a glimpse of that, you go to that place. You are instinctively and intuitively propelled to seek it again, to know where it is, to make it accessible to yourself. Once you start to go there on a regular basis, it's so accessible that you access it all the time. And I think we get there in part by taking responsibility for ourselves and not being the victims. Because when you're a victim, you can't find home, right? Victims don't have a home. Victims are homeless and disenfranchised and sorrowful. And so if we let go of that victimization, that feeling of being a victim, that wounding, then we find home within us because we're healthier and we're stronger. And I hope these words are like landing in the way I mean them, because now to talk about specifically this winter of Mars retrograde, um, I'm going to flash back into 2022 because I had a really amazing revelation in 2022 about my inner child and my childhood, and it linked with what happened just recently. So I'm going to just tell you really briefly. 2022, my dog had died, and anybody who knows Sparky and me, that was my soul dog. Sparky was like not a dog. Sparky was the dog. Okay. I still don't have another dog because there's no other Sparky, and I have to get ready to have a dog that isn't Sparky. But at any rate, um, I Sparky passed away. It was a weird week. I had dental surgery where they screwed up my anesthesia and knocked me into like the following week. For 3 days, I'd have someone come and stay with me. I couldn't even get up to go to the bathroom. Should have sued them, but I'm not that person. So anyway, that happened first. Then I lost my dog, and then I got COVID, all in 2022, in March of 2022. So I'm on this like very tragic path, obviously, something, my transits, everything. So anyway, long story short, Sparky passes over, and that summer, I decided to adopt a rescue dog. It just came into my energy field in a way that was very synchronistic, and I'm like, this is the dog. I'm going to get it. It looked just like Sparky. It was great. And then the dog was a puppy mill dog that was very damaged, and I could not break through with her. I even tried to give her Reiki. It just wasn't happening. So I had to call the rescue up and tell them I'm not making any headway with the dog. Maybe I'm not the right home for her, etc. And so they came and they took the dog back, but it took a few days. And in that time period, I'm still working with the dog. I'm still trying to get the dog to love me. It's not loving me. I'm starting to get a complex about it. It doesn't even want to like come inside the house. It's like outside in the yard. It will not bond. It's like, it would be like having a goat or something. It like was just not a companionable house type of pet. It was like really, totally not a pet. So I didn't know how to work with it. That's not my wheelhouse and whatever. So they were very nice. The lady was very nice. They took the dog back. I knew it was going to have a good home. It was fine. But in the interim, the few days before she was to leave my home, she got out of the gate and ran away. And this had happened when Sparky was a puppy. And I remember because when I got Sparky, I was in a very heartbroken, tragic time in my life. The dog kind of saved my life. And when I got Sparky and he was a puppy, he ran and bolted out one day. And I remember going all over the neighborhood looking for him, crying, hysterical. I'm a fragile creature at that time. And it was a symbolic leaving because I had had so much abandonment in my life that when the dog ran away that first time, when it was my dog, I melted down because it was like just the dog left me now. So Sparky and I got home, everything was fine. And now here I am like 12 years later, and this is happening again to me with a rescue dog. And I had every neighbor was out. We're all chasing the dog. And I wasn't too emotional about it, but I wanted to get the dog because I was afraid something would happen. So the whole neighborhood's out. The mailman's out. Everybody's chasing this darn dog because she's scared and she doesn't understand people. And so finally, during this pursuit, I have a notion in my head, just a revelation, an awareness. And the voice said to me, Georgia, not everything that runs away is running away from you. Maybe they're just running towards something that they need to thrive. And it was like this weight was lifted off me. And I realized that the dog was running away because she was frightened and she was running to safety, what was safe for her. It had nothing to do with me. The dog was not abandoning me. The dog was going to something that felt natural to them. So that was the first revelation I had in 2022. And it really changed me and my relationship with my siblings because I'm the youngest of 5 and each one of my siblings basically like left home at an early age and never came back. And each one of them had been a caretaker to me en route, in sequence, and then left. So I always felt for much of my lifetime that my brothers and sisters left me in a situation that they escaped from, but no one ever came back to get me. And this was deep, deep stuff. So when that happened with the dogs, the first time with Sparky, it was like traumatic because I had all this abandonment that had just happened in my life through other things and death and things like that. But now here we are in 2022 and it happens with this rescue dog and I have a completely different experience, and it's like an awareness and a maturity and a wisdom spiritually that I get that's like just amazing, right? So that changed my relationship with my siblings for the better because I didn't hold any animosity anymore. Even though I had tried so many years to get rid of it, it was like this deep wound. So now flash forward to present day. And the reason why I bring up the 2022 time and that first revelation I had about healing childhood trauma is because when I had my most recent one, which I'll describe in a minute, now, 3 years later, Neptune in Pisces is in the exact same place it was in my chart in 2022, along with other planets. It's like the same exact transit lineup that I had when that happened with the dog in 2022 and I had the first revelation. Now is being repeated in my chart now. And all of a sudden I have this other revelation, almost like I pick up a thread from 2022 and I'm like, wow, this feels so similar to 3 years ago when I had these deep revelations that healed me in some very strong woundings. Chiron is in the same exact place in my chart at 20 degrees Aries, opposite my Libra sun, exactly where it was in 2022. The planet of the wounding the heal, healing the wound, wounding the heal, healing the wound, the planet that brings us to a place of awareness in the deep wounds that we bring into this lifetime. And there were other transits too that are exact. It's like uncanny. And people say, why do you do astrology? Well, it's the medicine, babe. It is the medicine. So now we have this long Mars retrograde, and I'm feeling emotional. The last couple of months, I've been emotional. All the polarization that's going on in the world is like hitting me hard. I don't even want to go on social media. For those of you who follow me religiously on social media, thank you very much. But I haven't been posting. I've been putting the show up, and that's basically it. Maybe a couple of things here and there. I'm not writing and posting and doing things that I used to do because when I go onto social media, I've been attacked. I've been misunderstood. It's so heightened now. It's just not the platform I want to be on because I've been very emotionally sensitive about it. And I'm like, I don't belong anywhere. Story of my life. I didn't belong in the family I grew up in. Don't belong here. Don't feel like I belong there. Now I don't belong doing my work in this platform. It's just not working for me. And all of this started to come to a head because in 2025, I have 4 family weddings that I have to go to, some of which are out of state. All of them are out of state. Some close, some not close. And it just started bringing up all this stuff from family. And what came to light was I don't feel safe around my family of origin. I don't feel safe around my siblings. And I started to internalize this a lot. And the reason why I'm talking about this and being so vulnerable and sharing my story tonight is not to shine a spotlight on me. I'm not anything more special than anyone. It's because I feel like a lot of us probably have similar things, and I'm hoping to inspire everyone to reach a level of maturity so that you heal and no longer carry these things that are so heavy and so burdensome. So I start to feel like I don't belong anywhere. The Facebook polarity and all the heated stuff that's out there in the world was making me feel like I don't even know if I should be of this world. I think I should go on a planet somewhere. And then it boiled down. That was the macrocosm of the globe. We're seeing all this stuff. And then my microcosm is, our family unit. That's a community. And all these weddings are coming up and I have to travel and be in Verbos and Airbnbs and do all these things. And like, I'm getting anxiety and I'm not really comfortable. And why is that? I should be feeling so much love for these people, And so it comes to a head because I'm supposed to do a sister day with my 2 sisters. And I'm looking forward to it and I want to do it. But I have all this weird energy and anxiety. So I call up my older sister, the one who's closest in age to me, but she's still like 6.5 years older. So I didn't like grow up close with any of them, And I start unburdening myself to her, which is very unusual, very, very unusual. And I said, I'm feeling a kind of sort of way, and I just want to be honest with you and open because, one of my things these last several years has been I only have completely honest relationships. I don't bring any, authenticity to any relationship I have in my life ever, anywhere. Okay, I just don't. Because if you're going to have a good relationship, you got to be honest. And it makes me feel more comfortable. So I open up to her. I'm telling her things. And I said, I feel like I never belonged in our family. And I don't feel safe around anyone. And I'm really sorry to tell you this, but I've chosen to tell you because out of all our siblings, I have felt the most comfortable with you. But I feel like this, and I went on to go into detail and description about how I feel without reliving stories and this one did this and this one did that. No, this isn't a shame and blame game at all whatsoever. You got to rise above that stuff if you're ever going to heal. No shame, no blame. This is the way I feel. I'm just being honest. How can we fix it? How can we do something different so that this isn't the dynamic anymore? And she said to me, I've always felt that way too. I felt the same way. And we had this really great heartfelt discussion. And I realized that it's nobody's fault. And what I mean by that is it was circumstances. We grew up in a very chaotic house, all of us. There's 5 siblings. We always had a family member living with us that wasn't my parents, in addition to my parents. My parents didn't get along. My father was extremely disciplinarian, and I'm being kind. Was he abusive? Yes. Sometimes physically, yes. Verbally, always. My mom didn't cope well. She had a learned helplessness in her life and very bad depression at times. And I'm not revealing anything I'm ashamed of. This is life. This is what happens. We all have stuff, right? But they had 5 kids. So during the conversation with my sister and I, what came out was that she was feeling the same way. And she said to me, I think all of us have felt that way. Because if you think about it, Georgia, how could we feel safe when we were always in a situation where there was chaos and nothing was safe? And we never learned how to be safe with each other. And it was so amazing to me, and it sounds so fundamental and it sounds so simplistic, but if you have trauma or you have unease with your siblings, and it could also be because of, lived experiences that you have as adults as well, because you've been conditioned to be this way. And Pluto in Aquarius is wiping away all the conditioning by bringing it into our awareness so it can be changed. So now I'm thinking of my brothers and sisters completely different. And I'm thinking about it in a different way. And I'm like, yeah, they didn't really do anything to me. I mean, they did, brothers and sisters do. But they all just were feeling unsafe too. And we all had our mechanisms to find safety. For some that was, picking on each other. For others that was, running away and getting married at 16 years old. For other, it was something for all of us. For me, it was total withdrawal. I completely withdrew from the family unit. I didn't go to a lot of things because I just never felt like I belonged. And why would you go somewhere to feel like you don't belong? And so I missed out on a lot of things, but that's just the way it had to be. That's what I had to do for my own health and my own well-being. I needed to step out of the family in order to heal myself. I don't think I would have done it in the dynamic of the family. So we had this really great conversation. And since then, I've been going over a lot of things. And I'm realizing the intentions wasn't to hurt me. Just like when I saw them fighting, their intentions weren't to hurt each other. We were all just looking to find a safe space and in our own mechanisms of how it felt safe for us and the complexes that we ran and the conditioning we did. And now I'm looking at my brothers and sisters with so much compassion and so much love. And it's come into my awareness so much that we're all struggling together. And instead of pushing against each other, well, I don't feel safe around you. Instead, we now kind of have developed this thing, and I had a nice sister day with my 2 sisters, and it's more or less like, are you comfortable doing this? How can we make you more comfortable? Is this comfortable for you? I'm feeling okay. How do you feel about this? And the other thing is, and this is the last piece of the puzzle, was we always feel really guilty and shameful when we think bad things about our mom and dad. And what I'm here to tell you is nobody's perfect. And, I don't have a mom and dad here on this earth anymore. They passed quite a while ago. And they had good points about them, but they really weren't good parents. And I always said, well, they did the best they could. But, we all have choices. And I think they could have done better. But I also think they lived in an age where their barometer for better wasn't what our barometer is. And they didn't run to therapists, and they didn't go to Reiki, and they didn't meditate, and they didn't do yoga, and they didn't have all these things on the internet and on YouTube for self-help. So maybe they did do the best they could, in their parameter. But my dad especially, I'm just going to throw out a word, not a clinical label, but he was a narcissist, and he had narcissistic tendencies. And what do narcissists do? They triangulate. They pin people against each other. They use everybody like a pawn on a chessboard. They do it unconsciously. But again, they do it trying to find their own safety, right? They don't feel safe anywhere. They feel they're going to be exposed, so they're constantly orchestrating. And I grew up in a home where a lot of times our parents pitted us against each other, my siblings and I, you know? And when I look back on a lot of the really harsh treatment that my dad did, I realized he was feeling unsafe when he thought we weren't controllable. And I can understand that. And I don't like have anger about that anymore. And I don't think, how could you have done that to a kid? Instead, now I think like, wow, the amount of fear and anxiety he must have had and not even known what it was, and have compassion for that. So this Mars retrograde in my seventh and eighth house, Cancer and Leo, guys, game changer. I will never forget the winter of my Mars retrograde 2025. And now today, Mars went forward. And that's why I decided to do this show. Because the whole purpose of retrogrades is to bring something into our awareness that we didn't see before so we can change it, heal it, make it better, and go on a new way. And that's Pluto in Aquarius, where it's going to be for the next 20 years. And it's going to reveal stuff to us like this, whatever that might be in your own life, in order for us to find the new way. And in that new way is the soul space. Now, like even whether it's I go for a sister day with my two beautiful older sisters, or I want to go to one of these family weddings, now it's I am going to feel safe because I have my own power and my own agency within me. And I don't need that external validation. Do they like me? Do they think I'm stupid? Oh, if I do that, it'll piss them off. Get rid of all that and go into your soul space, the place where you're safe and you're home within yourself, that calm and peaceful place, and respond from there. And it's going to be totally different because now when I think about going to a family wedding, I'm thinking about, I see them all so differently now, and I see things differently even in my own lived experience in my life. I think I can react differently to them in my own stability and calmness about situations. And that energy is going to now permeate those relationships. And so in that, I feel so great. And hey, look, I got a road to go. Just because I have these awarenesses doesn't mean I'm going to wake up tomorrow and feel safe everywhere I go. When you grow up not feeling safe and have lived experience in your life that have made you feel unsafe, it's very hard to get there. But the inner soul space is the way. The externals is not going to work. And I see it all the time now. I'm so aware of it. Like even certain influences that they got to stick a microphone in their face or a camera in their face for every single thing in their life, looking for that external validation because they feel unsafe. And if we're going to be safe, it's got to come from our own place of within. And that's what this whole year, 2025, is going to be about. A lot of things are going to go crazy on the earth. But if you have that soul space inside, you can navigate anything. And, think about that and think about like your own sibling relationships and your family relationships with parents or cousins or uncles or caregivers who were a little bit narcissistic or maybe a lot narcissistic. And there's going to be triangulation. They're going to pit two people against each other to cause this triangle because in that they're powerful. In that when everybody's running around chaotic, they feel powerful. That's what narcissist does. And I think my dad did that a lot with us kids and pitted us against each other, taking turns on each one. I also think that we were used a lot as pawns in the triangulation of my mom and dad's marriage. And sometimes I know even as a child myself, the way it played out was, I was the youngest in the house and I had a mom, a dad, usually a family member as an adult who was living with us at any given time, whether it be an aunt or grandma, and 4 siblings. So on any given day, I was being told what to do by 8 people, So I grew up in an environment where I wasn't encouraged to make my own decisions, certainly. So I still find myself oftentimes procrastinating or not wanting to make a decision and like looking for somebody else in the room to go first. And you wouldn't think that because I'm a very powerful and very stabilized person in my own personal power. I've found that. But those old conditioning still comes through. And in this year, 2025, there's going to be a lot of things that come through to bust out and break apart Pluto in Aquarius, that Aquarian energy, breaking apart the old habits, the old patterns that just no longer work. And in doing that, I think we have to find new paths. And that takes surrender. Like, I literally, when I picked up the phone to call my sister and have that heart to heart with her, it was so out of character and something that would provoke so much anxiety within me. But I didn't feel that way when I dialed the phone, because prior to picking the phone up, I said to myself, you got to surrender to this if you're going to do it. If you're going to have this conversation, you've got to just surrender it. And so that was how it worked. And in doing that, the universe gave me a beautiful energetic connection there that helped me see things in a completely different light. And I think that a lot of times we fear retrograde planets. When a planet goes retrograde, it slows down. It passes over the same place in our chart 3 times, like this. And, you know, if you listen to pop horoscope and pop culture, well, retrograde's like, ooh, big whammy. No, they're meant to slow us down. They're meant to give us insight and introspection so that we can do the type of work that I just spent the last 4 months doing. Was not easy. I'm not even giving you too many details. I'm trying to give you a version that doesn't make it narcissistic on my part to like spill it all over the floor. But I have to give some kind of personal notation so that you get the meat of it and can apply things to whatever those issues are for you. Because I've had mentors in my life that held me that way and helped me and, you know, grabbed my hand and said, no, come here and look at this. And I'm hoping that the Soul Space podcast is a show that you come to that says to you, hey, look at this. Is this landing? Does this mean anything? You know, and what's your experience? Because I want something to land for me more too. And we're all kind of in this growth and this self-evaluation together, you know. And I think if we can get there, then what happens is we heal each other, and all that crazy polarity and all that stuff that's in the world ends. It stops. It becomes less important. And what becomes more and more important is what's inside of us. So I just got to reach over and get my glasses so that I can see my comments. I'm going to do that. Where did I put my glasses? So I'd love to see your comments. And also, you know, if you want to continue this discussion, definitely do so on the comments on, you know, on social media and stuff. As I said, I have not been posting so much. I don't know where my glasses are now either. I guess it's not important. I cannot see those comments unless you can enlarge them in some way, Carmine. Maybe I can get them on the screen. Nope. And I really want to read them. I can't read them. I'm too far away. So anyway, I wish I could, because I know it's a big part of the show to have the comments. That's a little infuriating. But what can I say? Let me see if I can get them on. No, can't do it. Because when I go to the show feed, it's not working for me. All right. So I guess that is really what I wanted to talk about tonight. And the other reason why we have to really think about retrogrades is because Venus is going retrograde March 2nd. All right. But first I want to talk about the full moon, the new moon in Pisces that's coming in, because that new moon in Pisces is Friday. And that's going to heighten all the energy I was just talking about. And that's going to be an energy where some things really might come into your awareness. Right now, just got to check my chart a second. Right now, just want to go here. We have so many planets in Pisces right now. I'm going to tell you everything that's in Pisces. Okay, right now, everything that is in Pisces, we have this is not the chart. All day this has been happening. All right. I'm batting 1,000 here, Carmine. Why is it going there? Okay. So Venus, when it goes retrograde, is going to bring in a lot of reevaluation of our value systems, which ties into all these retrogrades that we've been having. So you definitely want to be prepared for some love and relationship stuff during that Venus in retrograde. Okay. So in Pisces right now, we've got Mercury. We've got the sun at 6 degrees. We've got the moon headed for Pisces. Moon's in Capricorn right now. It'll be in Pisces on Friday. We've got Mercury at 19 degrees Pisces. We've got Saturn in Pisces. We've got Neptune in Pisces. And we've got the true North Node in Pisces. We've got Neptune on the North Node in Pisces, which means that whatever is coming into your awareness, whatever you're connecting with, whatever is coming in with, dreams and, psychic things, meditation, with the North Node and Neptune in Pisces together there, right on top of each other, this is going to bring in things that are for your moving forward, for where your soul wants to go in this lifetime. So think about what's going on with this new moon and set those affirmations that we gave you, because the affirmations are going to help you really stay in a stability of this energy, where Pisces is going to bring in a lot of confusion and a lot of not instability. Pisces is just like an energy that likes to dissolve things, which is why you see a lot of situations globally now dissolving or muting into something else. You see a lot of borders of countries being dissolved or mutating, because Pisces is an energy that dissolves anything that's outdated, decayed, or what we have outgrown. So you really want to make sure that you are looking at what comes into your awareness so that you can move away from it and create new patterns and new ways, like in the stories that I just described before. Okay, let me see this. Okay, so yeah, my screen is frozen. That's why I can't bring up comments here. So I'm not going to even try to read that. I'm sorry, Sarah. I can't read any comments tonight. So that's the show for tonight. I'm going to pick a Circle of Light card to end our show. And these cards are available on my website. If you'd like an astrology reading, if you want me to look at your chart, or also I do mediumship as well, you can book that on zencuda.com. I also do coaching. You can book a coaching session there. There's a scheduler. Everything is done right for you. And you can also purchase your Zencuda Circle of Light cards on there if you want. I think they're $40, and that includes, delivery. And just let me know if you want a deck. And I'm going to pick a card for tonight for the show. We talked a lot about the reordering of our patterns and the reordering of our life. Let's see what's coming out now for us. I am going to pick this card. Oh my gosh. It's number 12, which is my birth date. And it's sacred space. And all I've been talking about all night is our soul space. Sacred space. The soul space is a sacred space. And it says, light connects us to divine source. And I'm just going to read a little bit about what the excerpt is. And I opened right to it for that card. And it says, spirit is a source of light that connects us to divine power. And spirit to me is not just God or whatever source is. Spirit is also in us. It's what we bring to everything. It's our passion, what ignites us. Divine power is light amplified in sacred space. That's why when we meditate and we go within and we use a little introspection, that's why we find our stability there, because we're connected to divine light. We're connected to divine space. Divine power is light amplified in sacred space. You can access this light within you to bring great joy, wisdom, and abundance to your life. The light of your spirit can also bring communication from angels, guides, and Creator. We are all light beings, and spirit is the source of our light. You can enhance this by restorative solitude, meditation, yoga, and participating in things that make you feel joyful and aligned in spirit. So thank you so much for watching this evening. I hope you find your sacred soul space, and I hope you'll continue to watch me and support my work on Zencuda Soul Space on Facebook, on Zencuda Official on Instagram, and please, if you have not yet, subscribe to my channel on YouTube, Zencuda, and my website, zencuda.com, where you can book a reading. My blog is there, and all kinds of different things. We're going to be putting up events and doing community there as well. So thanks so much, everybody. I will see you next Monday at 7 o'clock in the Soul Space. We're going to be talking more about the new moon in Pisces that just happened, and Venus going retrograde next week. So I'll tell you all about that. Thanks so much. See you next week.